Episode 86 Rich Folks Advice. When I was a boy back in the Iron Age, I was very curious about money. My family had very little, and that caused lots of problems. I had no rich uncle to tutor me about how to acquire money. All my neighbors, friends, and family acted like working for the man was the only way to get money, unless you wanted to become a thief. I blundered into capitalism by mistake. My shining shoes gig and my newspaper hawking business opened my eyes to buying and selling on my own. Those early entrepreneurial efforts presaged my adult life. If I had had some advice from a wealthy, successful expert earlier, I might have done better financially in life. I did okay anyway. So, for what it's worth, here is some money making nuggets from rich folks. The richest man in China said, "If you put bananas and money in front of monkeys, the monkeys will choose bananas because they don't know that money can buy a lot of bananas. In fact, if you offer people work or a business, they will choose work because most people don't know that a business can make more money than a salary. The reason why the poor are poor is because they spend a lot of time in school being taught that the only choice is working for the man. So they work for wages or a salary instead of working for themselves. A salary just gives you an income to live on, but profit can make you a fortune." And another piece of advice from Chris Gardner, who was a homeless man but turned into a millionaire. He is a stockbroker, speaker, researcher, lecturer, writer, and the inspiration for the Will Smith film, The Pursuit of Happiness. Gardner said, "Here's the secret to success. Find something you love to do so much you can't wait for the sun to rise to do it all over again. That way, even if you don't make millions, at least you'll never have to quote unquote work." And another wealthy guy, Gary Haven, said, "You have to be willing to put security at risk in order to have the potential for wealth. No pain, no gain. And no risk, no gain either." He dropped out of college at 20, became a millionaire by 25, and then was bankrupt at 30. He learned some hard lessons based on big risks. "One big thing I've learned," he said, "is that when you're wealthy at a young age like I was, it has a lot to do with luck. When you're older, it has a lot to do with experience." And a female expert, Maria Mcechnie, president of QR Pharma, said, quote, "If you don't adjust well to rapid change, then entrepreneurship may not be for you," unquote. Not everyone is cut out for entrepreneurship, although it's the straightforward path to becoming a millionaire, after inheriting your fortune, of course. However, she presses that things don't happen right away, and they take a lot more work and dedication than the inspirational movies show. And one of my cousins from another Murphy tree, Tim Murphy, wrote The Value-Driven Approach. He said, "The house always wins. That is a recognized truth because more often than not it has been proven. So the best minds at Harvard and MIT develop complex algorithms and formulas to ensure the house wins. The book Confessions of an Economic Hitman, the odds are created not by MIT or Harvard graduates, but by economic hitmen who are the shock troops of the corporate autocrats, a vast network of corporations, banks, colluding governments, and the rich and powerful people tied to them. If the economic hitmen can't maintain the corporate status quo through nonviolent coercion, the jackal assassins swoop in." Murphy further said, "Whether it's the financial sector, the real estate industry, or in the highest levels of government, there are insiders and there are outsiders. There are those who know how to play the game and there are those who don't. And those who don't are the suckers who get played by those who do. So become an investor or an entrepreneur instead of a consumer. Real life pits the insider against the outsider, where the insider always wins. I see it in real estate too. The saddest part, the outsider doesn't even realize he's been playing the part of the fool." And lastly, Tim Denning said, "Do the opposite of most people. Here are a list of things I've been told. Desktop computers are a fad. Posting on social media will get you fired. We'll never carry phones everywhere we go. The internet is a scam, and the dot-com bubble proved it. And they can't fire you because you have all the customer relationships. And Bitcoin and cryptocurrency are the new baby bubble. Denning further said, I'm the 90s kid, and every one of these never going to happen realities happen. In fact, all the money I've made in my life is doing the opposite of these common bits of advice. Opportunities that make real money look like scams. That's because they carry risks. They're uncomfortable and require an optimistic mindset to understand. That's not the default way the average person operates. It's why, as harsh as it sounds, that's the fastest way to become broke and depend on a salary. Action. Take conventional advice and do the opposite. And lastly, the most pithy, this one by an unknown. Don't forget to look up sometime. When we are hiking, we have to constantly be scanning the ground in front of us for our next footstep, or we risk a hike-ending injury. But you have to occasionally take the time to look up and enjoy the scenery. This statement can also be applied to life in general, especially with today everyone's head in the phone. This is Rod Murphy. Thank you for viewing or listening to my podcast episodes. I really appreciate it. If you liked it, and if you so choose, I ask you to send a good review and or refer a friend who might be interested in this Old Boston podcast series. Again, my thanks.